stick around. You know him, you love him. Raffi Andonian joining us to celebrate, or maybe not, the birthday of Prohibition. Stick around.
Good morning and welcome back to North Dakota today. Here's a fun fact. Today is actually the anniversary of the approval of Prohibition, banning alcohol nationwide and giving rise to speakeasies in the Roaring 20s. Here to serve us a shot from this exciting time period that we still taste in our cocktails today, celebrity historian Raffi Andonian. Hello, Raffi.
Hey there, how are you? And look, in honor of that, I'm just sitting here with my glass
Cheers.
of water, taking it easy, you know?
I love it. Well, we'll dive right in. Do you want to tell me a little bit about the Prohibition movement, when it began?
In North Dakota, it actually began before Prohibition was national, but it reflects something nationally. So in the late 18th century, the era of the founding fathers, you have a lot of drinking, believe it or not. They had a lot of drinks at political events, social events, Christmas parties, etc. So beginning in the 19th century, early part of the 19th century, there's a movement saying maybe we should kind of push alcohol out of, so many places being so excessively drunk. So over the course of the century, into the early 20th century, when Prohibition became legalized in 1919, it's really a century-long effort. And in North Dakota, for example, it is actually a little bit sooner. In the course of that 19th century, we're talking about in 1889, North Dakota bans alcohol sooner. So some states did ban alcohol before the national ban, but then the national ban came in and made it nationwide. Now, there's three main reasons that they're doing this. One is crime. They're worried about crime being really rampant. Think about the western frontier towns. Think about a lot of drinking, crime, shootouts, things like that might happen. Another thing is family structure, because a lot of times someone who's a worker at a factory town or something like that may come home and then now they drink heavily, and that affected the family. A lot of the images from the day that you see portrayed a family decaying. And then the other final thing that I would point out that's really important there is a national character, as they called it, because it was very prevalent in politics. You'd go to a voting booth or something, and someone might offer you a shot in return for your vote. Things like this really happened because voting back then was not on a secret ballot, so people knew how you voted. So that could actually end up opening a bribery with alcohol. So they thought that's not good for a republic. So what happens eventually is the effort to push a constitutional amendment nationally, right? And then when it gets approved, it's the first time that you have an amendment that's really very policy specific like that. And it turned out not to work out so great. So here are some things that didn't go well. For example, jobs were lost at those saloons and breweries and distilleries. Another thing that happened is theaters were not getting the same amount of people in the 1920s. They would later in the 1930s, oddly enough, in the Great Depression, after Prohibition was repealed. So it was something that was related is what they saw. Restaurants didn't make a lot of money because in restaurants, alcohol, of course, is one of the big money makers. So these are the kinds of things that happen. And of course, crime didn't go away. It actually increased. Think about Al Capone, the famous gangster, wore my three-piece gray suit in honor of Al Capone and pulled out a 1920s hat so I could, honor the period in Al Capone, although he wore a different style hat.
I love it.
I wore a more popular hat. But one more thing about that is the bootleg liquor was not good at all. Some people got poisoned, believe it or not. And so these are some of the reasons that Prohibition ultimately would fail after a little more than a decade of having it during the Roaring 20s.
Wow, but we did see the birth of speakeasies. So what kind of drinks did they serve in those in the 20s?
Oh, I love that you asked that, because here's the thing. Think about the Roaring 20s. During Prohibition, Roaring 20s and Prohibition. So what's going on here? Well, speakeasies were a big part of it. But let me show you first what you may have before the speakeasies. You may have straight rum. Here is a bottle of rum that I have. And you may have straight whiskey, you may have straight beer. In other words, mixing drinks was not very common. It existed a little bit in the 18th and 19th century, but not very common. So instead, what you're going to have is drinking straight earlier. However, in those speakeasies, things changed. They start to mix the alcohol. Remember I said that bootleg liquor was really bad, right?
Yes, you did.
It also tasted really bad. Well, what are you going to do in bootleg liquor then? You're going to want to mix it to mask the flavor. So think about when you associate speakeasies, you associate it with a great, a good flavor, having these fancy drinks. If you go to a modern speakeasy, of course, it's not illegal anymore, but You think about these kind of fancy cocktails. That's really what you're drinking. And think about the modern craft cocktail movement. It starts during Prohibition, oddly enough, to mass that liquor. So look what I did. I'm going to show you an example right here.
Oh.
That glass of water I showed you, all right, that was not a lot, right? That's not a lot of water. It's actually the rum that I showed you. So here's my shot glass. I'm going to show you what we would do in a speakeasy. All right, it's actually the rum that I showed you earlier. So now I'm going to mix in some North Dakota flavor. Today is actually also Spicy Foods Day. So let me show you what I got here. Off the deck hot sauce from right in Fargo.
No.
And this is stuff that was grown on their deck, the chili peppers in Fargo on their deck, and then eventually went off their deck. They were so kind, they even did the North Dakota Nice. They wrote me a handwritten letter when I got the hot sauce. You love that?
I love it.
Cool? So check this out. Let's take some North Dakota flavor. Let's be creative like a speakeasy. Ooh. Take my glass of rum, and in honor of the Prohibition and Spicy Food Day, we're going to mix it and see what happens. Yeah, let's see. There it goes.
Oh, Raffi, I don't like that.
Oh, we're going to do it. You know, I'm always going to do something fun.
Oh, goodness.
In honor. So let's see what it tastes like. I've never tried it before. We're going to do it in honor of the speakeasy.
Cheers.
Oh, man.
Oh. Oh, I didn't like that. I didn't like that for you. I'm gonna save you and I'll cut you off here, but thank you so much for talking about this.
As my throat burns.
Oh gosh. Okay, I'll let you recover. Thank you so much, Raffi. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.